Distance intensifies attraction. The more he tries to suppress his feelings, the more powerful they become. And eventually, if the attraction is real, that silence will break. The only question is, when it does, will you still be there? So, if you're dealing with a man who goes silent despite clearly craving you, remember this. His silence is not a reflection of your worth. It's not a rejection. It's a battle one that he's fighting within himself. And the key to handling it, it's not to chase, not to panic, not to let his struggle become your insecurity. Because the moment you start reacting emotionally, the moment you start seeking validation in his silence, you've already lost the power in the situation. Instead, the best response is to do what the Stoics themselves would do. Stay grounded, stay patient, stay in control of yourself. Because the truth is, a man who truly wants you won't be able to stay silent forever. And when he finally speaks, you'll be the one deciding if you still want to listen. Section 3. The psychology of silence. What's going on in his mind? Silence is maddening. When someone you crave pulls away, your mind races with 1,000 possible explanations. Is he losing interest? Did I misread everything? Is he talking to someone else? And the worst part, you don't get any answers, just the echo of your own thoughts, playing over and over again. But before you drive yourself crazy trying to decode his silence, let's talk about what's actually happening in his mind. Because silence isn't just an action, it's a reaction, and that reaction is fueled by psychology. One of the biggest reasons men go silent when they crave you is overwhelm. Imagine this. He starts catching real feelings for you. He wasn't expecting it, wasn't planning for it. And now, suddenly, it's happening. And instead of embracing those emotions, he freezes. Not because he doesn't want you, but because he doesn't know how to process what he's feeling. Many men struggle with emotional overwhelm because they've never been taught how to handle it. Society has conditioned them to be strong, to be in control, to suppress instead of express. So when emotions hit them hard, their instinct isn't to talk about it, it's to retreat. Then there's fear of vulnerability. Vulnerability is uncomfortable. It requires honesty, openness, and the willingness to let someone see you completely. And for a man who has spent his life guarding himself, that can feel terrifying. He might crave you deeply, but the moment he realizes that being with you means exposing his emotions, his fears, his weaknesses, his instinct is to shut down. It's not that he doesn't care. It's that caring comes with risks. Risks of rejection, risks of getting hurt, risks of losing control over how he feels. And then there's past wounds and trauma. Maybe he's been hurt before. Maybe he's been in relationships where opening up led to pain. Maybe he's seen relationships around him fail, and he's internalized the belief that love always leads to loss. And now, as his feelings for you grow, so does his fear that history will repeat itself. His silence isn't necessarily about you. It's about everything he's been through before you. Some men also use silence as a test, not necessarily to test you, but to test themselves. They step back to see how much control they have over their emotions. They want to know if they can resist the pull, if they can maintain their independence. It's a battle between head and heart, logic and emotion. And often, they don't even realize they're doing it. It's just an instinctive reaction to feeling something too deeply. But here's the thing. Silence doesn't mean he doesn't care. In many cases, it means he cares too much. The problem is, most people take silence as a sign to panic. They assume the worst. They start chasing. They try to force answers. And that's exactly what pushes a man further away. So if you're dealing with a man who's gone quiet despite showing clear signs of desire, Your best move isn't to analyze or chase. It's to stay still. To let him work through whatever internal battle he's fighting. Because if his feelings are real, if his craving for you is as strong as you think, it won't be long before his silence starts to suffocate him. And when that happens, he'll be the one breaking it. Section 4. How to respond. Stoic wisdom in action. So now you understand why men go silent. You get that it's not always about losing interest, but about emotional overwhelm, fear of vulnerability, or the struggle to maintain control. But the real question is, what should you do about it? Most people react to silence the wrong way. They start over-analyzing, over-explaining, or overcompensating. They text more, call more, demand answers. They start acting out of fear, which only makes them appear needy, desperate, or emotionally reactive. And nothing pushes a man away faster than the energy of desperation. So let's talk about what you should do the Stoic way. First and foremost, do nothing. Yes, you heard that right. Do nothing. Stoicism teaches emotional control. It teaches patience. It teaches the power of not reacting to things outside of your control. And his silence, that's outside of your control. The best thing you can do is match his energy. If he's silent, you're silent. If he's withdrawn, you pull back too. Not out of pettiness, not to play games, but because you understand that your energy is too valuable to waste on uncertainty. This accomplishes two things. One, it protects your own emotional well-being. You're not sitting around waiting, hoping for a response that may never come. You're not letting someone else's inconsistency dictate your mood or your self-worth. And two, it shifts the power dynamic. Men are wired to pursue. The moment they feel like they don't fully have you, their desire intensifies. If he pulled away out of fear or the need for control, seeing you remain unbothered will make him question his decision. He'll start wondering why you're not chasing, why you're not reacting, why you seem perfectly fine without him. And that's what makes silence work in your favor. Now let's say he does eventually reach out. How do you handle it? With grace and strength. You don't punish him. You don't throw accusations. You don't demand explanations. You respond calmly, with confidence, as if his silence didn't faze you at all. Because here's the truth. Your reaction sets the tone for how he treats you moving forward. If you show that you're emotionally secure, that you don't need constant reassurance, that you respect your own value enough not to chase, he'll respect you more. And if he doesn't, then you have your answer. Because the real lesson in all of this, the Stoic lesson, is that you cannot control how someone feels, acts, or communicates. But you can control yourself. You can control your emotions, your reactions, and most importantly, your standards. A man who truly wants you won't stay silent forever. He may need time to work through his emotions, but if his feelings are real, he will come back. And when he does, it will be with clarity, not confusion, with purpose, not hesitation. And if he doesn't, if he stays silent, then he was never truly yours to begin with. The most powerful thing you can do is not to chase, not to beg for answers, not to let his uncertainty shake your confidence. The most powerful thing you can do is to stand firm in your own worth. Because in the end, a man's silence doesn't define you. It defines him. Section 5. The ultimate truth. Does silence mean he'll come back? By now, you understand that silence doesn't always mean rejection. That sometimes a man withdraws not because he doesn't want you, but because he wants you too much. That his silence isn't always about disinterest, but about fear, emotional overwhelm, or the battle between desire and control. But the real question remains: will he come back? The answer: it depends. If his feelings for you are real, if the craving, the desire, the connection he felt was truly deep, then yes. Silence won't last forever. The weight of unspoken words, the tension of holding back, and the emptiness that comes from your absence will eventually push him to break the silence. Why? Because men are wired to pursue what they truly want, and no matter how much he tries to suppress it, if the craving is strong enough, it will pull him back. But here's the part most people don't want to hear. Not every man who goes silent comes back. And that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his ability to handle his emotions. Some men will get lost in their own fears. Some will let their need for control override their desire for connection. Some will be too stubborn, too proud, or too emotionally blocked to ever return. And that's okay. Because the deeper truth, the one that Stoicism teaches us, is that you should never wait for someone to decide if they want you. You should never put your life, your happiness, or your emotional well-being on hold, hoping that one day he'll figure it out. If he comes back, he comes back. And if he doesn't, you move forward with the same grace, strength, and confidence you had when he was around. Because in the end, the only person whose actions you can control is you. So instead of asking, will he come back? Ask yourself, do I even want someone who is this emotionally inconsistent? Am I willing to accept this kind of silence in a relationship? Is this the kind of man who can truly meet me at my level? Because a man who truly values you won't stay silent forever, and the men who do. Conclusion. Final Stoic lesson on love silence. So here's the truth. Silence is not always a rejection. It's not always about you. And most importantly, it does not define your worth. A man's silence is a reflection of his internal struggle, his emotional capacity, his ability to handle the intensity of what he feels. But the way you respond to that silence, that's what defines you. You have two choices. 1. You can react emotionally, overthink, chase, seek validation, and let his silence shake your confidence. 2. Or you can stand firm in your power, trusting that if he truly values you, he will return. And if he doesn't, he was never meant to stay. The Stoics believed that true peace comes from focusing only on what you can control. You cannot control his feelings, his fears, or his ability to handle desire, but you can control how you respond. And the most powerful response: detachment. Not in a cold, heartless way, but in a way that says, I am whole with or without you. My value is not determined by your words or your silence. If you want me, you'll find a way to show it. And if you don't, I will keep moving forward with grace, confidence, and self-respect. Because in the end, the real question isn't, will he come back? The real question is, at the time he does, will you still care